Arsenal will win the Premier League. Arsenal will win the Champions League.
History makers! Arsenal are back in a Champions League final! And in truth, it was never in doubt from the very first minute here. And the Gunners are heading to Budapest, and they sit now just 90 minutes away from their first ever Champions League title.
And when they do, after 21 years of waiting, after 0 European titles in 138 years of history, Arsenal will never look the same again.
Arsenal can taste it more than they've ever tasted it.
If Arsenal win this, the arguments that I'm going to put players in are going to be egregious. We're going to put Mikel Arteta in the greatest ever manager arguments. We're going to put William Saliba in the best ever centre back argument.
Leading the Premier League, beating Leverkusen, beating Sporting, beating Atletico Madrid, they now stand on the doorstep of the Champions League final, facing PSG.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
A Premier League and Champions League double. That is the territory of giants. Manchester United in 1999 and Manchester City in 2023. Now, Arsenal are ready to carve their name into the Temple of Legends.
These boys, these groups of players, Saliba, Gabriel, Declan Rice, Nkapi, Saka, Madueke, all these other guys, they're too good to not win a trophy. They're too good to not win a trophy. We're going to bring something home. We're going to bring this good vein of form into the Premier League. We're going to win the Premier League, and hopefully we take this Champions League home.
As we've said in the last few weeks, they're on the verge of something really, truly special and historic for that football club.
If they could get this done, it would be remarkable. Oh, it'd be an unbelievable achievement. Yeah. And it's in their grasp. What have they got? 3 more games to do it. They've just got to win 3 more games.
Listen, this is not a video made to hype Arsenal. They do not need that. The table already speaks for itself. This is an analysis, an argument, a verdict. 3 questions, 3 answers. Straightforward. No sugarcoating. Stay with me. You'll have the answer at the end of the video.
Embrace it, battle for it, and let's see at the end, like I always say, what's gonna happen.
Before we start dreaming, let's face reality head on. How realistic actually is this? Because there is a massive gap between an emotional tweet saying Arsenal are winning it and a cold, hard argument built on statistics, tactics, and squad structure. We are here for the second one. 2 points. Just 3 games left. That is all that remains. Arsenal only need 2 wins, or 1 win and 1 slip-up from Man City, to bring the Premier League trophy back home after 21 long years. Think about that for a second. The last time Arsenal were champions, Beyoncé had just released Crazy in Love. Finding Nemo was still in cinemas. And half of the current Arsenal squad, they were probably still wearing diapers. In the Champions League, things are becoming insane. 16 matches, 11 wins, 3 draws, unbeaten. This run has been a statement of intent, from a perfect group stage campaign to crushing Leverkusen, Sporting and Atletico Madrid in the knockout rounds. And now, Arsenal stand on the doorstep of history. PSG, Budapest, May 30th, 2026. This is no longer a scenario on paper, it is a reality counting down. Just 15 days remain until the final battle, Arsenal versus PSG. A new chapter is about to be written.
Champions League final. Arsenal versus Paris Saint-Germain in Budapest 2026. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be historic. The entirety of London is going to shut down for this clash of the Titans. It is magnificent. It really is going to be a massive spectacle. People are saying that Arsenal are not capable of going toe-to-toe with this Paris Saint-Germain team. They're saying that it's a mismatch both on the pitch, in the stands and in the dugout. But that doesn't mean that Arsenal can't nullify them. That doesn't mean that Arsenal cannot stop them. That doesn't mean that it's impossible for Arsenal. Arsenal. It is Arsenal who are the unbeaten team in the Champions League this year, not Paris Saint-Germain. It is Arteta who has conceded fewer goals on a per-game basis than any other manager in the Champions League ever. They're going there to win. They're going there to be the victors. And Arsenal fans aren't going there to be entertained. They will find their entertainment in winning.
Look at the monumental double Arsenal are chasing. In the modern era of English football, only Manchester United 1999 and Manchester City 2023 have ever achieved a feat like this.
This could be greatness bestowed upon Arsenal, and these are the only teams in English football history that have ever won the top division and the European Cup in the same season. Liverpool twice, 70s and 80s. Manchester United, of course, did it as part of that incredible treble Roy was part of, and again in 7-8, and City just 3 years ago.
These are not merely trophies, they are milestones that mark the birth of a dynasty. A complete shift of power in the football world. So what happens after winning trophies like these? To answer that question, you first need to understand the man behind the wheel. And that man is Mikel Arteta. I want to talk about Mikel Arteta. Think back to December 2019. When he took over, Arsenal were collapsing in 8th place in the Premier League after sacking Unai Emery. The day Arteta was appointed, social media was flooded with mockery and doubt. People laughed at him as an inexperienced former player, an apprentice assistant living under Pep Guardiola's shadow. Amid that ruthless wave of skepticism and prejudice, Arteta's journey officially began.
I would have thought that Vieira would have been picked because I think he has a better experience as a coach, as a top coach.
For obvious reasons, the jury's still out because this is his first managerial job, and as much as he may have learned under Pep Guardiola, it's very different when you're the man in charge and you have to get those messages across. All that being said, it then comes down to how the Arsenal board back him and support him in what he's trying to do. This board has left me, even as a neutral, wanting in terms of their approach and backing managers. So we see how they support Arteta in going forward. Otherwise, it's just all in vain.
Now fast forward to reality. Just look at these numbers. This success is not luck. This is precision engineering. It is steady progression, a squad meticulously built through intelligent recruitment. Look at Declan Rice from West Ham. £105 million was once considered outrageously expensive, but now it looks like an absolute bargain. Or William Saliba, a £27 million signing from Sam Etienne, who has now developed into one of the best centre-backs in the world. Or Martin Odegaard, a player once lost inside Real Madrid's Galacticos 2.0 project, who is now the captain and an irreplaceable piece of Arsenal's system.
I look at this as 6 years with Mikel Arteta. This guy has taken a team from the wilderness, laughing stocks in the Prem, to getting up there, getting in the title race, getting themselves back in the Champions League for the first time in 7 years, losing the quarterfinals the first go-around, losing the semifinals the second go-around, and in his third attempt in the Champions League, in a final. We talk a lot about Mikel Arteta here, right? And about the pressure he faces and finally getting over the hump, and he needs to get it done this year. But I think sometimes you have to take a step back and realize that this rebuild that he has overseen, whether he wins it all or doesn't, he needs to, but even if he doesn't, it's a pretty impressive rebuild, man. It is, and he's done it in a way where he hasn't blown a crazy amount of money like maybe some competitors have. He hasn't done it in shady ways. He's done it the ethical way. This is an ethical rebuild, and now they're on the verge of, like you said, going from the wilderness to 6 years later, Premier and Champions League winner.
And finally, let's talk about that special name, Bukayo Saka.
Saka. Bukayo Saka! Oh! Odegaard, sweet touch. Martinelli. Right. Zinchenko. Bukayo Saka twisting and firing forcibly into the roof.
He does not just play football, he tortures defences. Saka's game is a ruthless blend of explosive right-wing dribbling and those trademark left-footed hurlers. When a player dominates both of football's most brutal stages at just 24 years old, you are no longer watching great player. You are witnessing the birth of a legacy. So what happens if this version of Arsenal, led by Arteta with a core of Saka, Rice, Odegaard and Saliba, conquers everything this season? Football history has 3 answers to that question, and unfortunately, not all of them are good news. When a club wins both the Premier League and the Champions League, history usually points toward 3 scenarios: domination, spark, or one-time miracle. Let's break down each part.
Manchester City. You gave me love. You gave me trust. You gave me everything that a coach has imagined. And here I am, winning you the Champions League in the most beautiful way possible. We did it. We won the treble.
The first scenario is the story of domination. That was Manchester City after their historic treble in 2022-23. Instead of becoming satisfied, they turned the peak of success into a launchpad for even greater dominance. Holland stayed, Guardiola extended his contract, and the entire structure above the squad, from recruitment to operations, had already been programmed to keep winning. Could Arsenal become a dominant force like that? The answer is absolutely yes, because their foundations are just as strong. Arsenal possess enormous commercial power through the Emirates, powerful financial backing from the Kroenke family, and most importantly, Mikel Arteta, a manager who has proven he can make the club improve sustainably year after year, not simply explode for one magical season.
It's good. I mean, look, what I would say is that this league, at this moment in time, has only really got one consistently good side every single week, and that's Arsenal, who are playing at the level of... They're not necessarily miles better than last year, but they're repeating their levels of consistency, and that's all they're going to have to do this year to win the league. They're very reliable, you can trust them. The way in which they defend is fantastic. They're all around each other, they don't concede goals, they've got a threat up front in multiple areas. They've not got a sensational centre forward, but they've got a battering ram up there who's honest as a day is long, and that I think can work for.
And here is the golden key that very few people talk about: age advantage. Saka, Saliba, Rice, Odegaard, this core group is only just entering the prime years of their careers. They are not declining, they are accelerating upward. So if Arsenal win the double this season, it absolutely will not be the end of a cycle. It will be the opening shot of an era. Now let's move to the second scenario, the story of the spark.
Oh, hit the post! And Chelsea will have a kick. By Didier Drogba. Yeah! And it's the greatest night in Chelsea's history. Champions of Europe at last. Here we go. It is Chelsea's European Cup at last. It's Chelsea history. Nothing like the first time.
Because the reality is this: not every double creates a dynasty. Sometimes the peak is actually the beginning of the collapse. Look at Chelsea in 2012. They won the Champions League with Roberto Di Matteo, only for him to be sacked 11 months later, triggering another chaotic cycle of managerial changes. Or Leicester City in 2016, the most unbelievable fairy tale in Premier League history. One season later, they had fallen back into mid-table. Ranieri lost his job, and that golden generation never touched greatness again. So what is Arsenal's biggest risk in this scenario? One word: Arteta. If Arsenal conquer both the Premier League and the Champions League, Mikel Arteta immediately becomes the most desirable manager on the planet. Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, PSG. Any giant club searching for a master architect to rebuild their empire will come knocking, and they will knock hard. And what about the stars on the pitch? Win the double and suddenly Saka is on Real Madrid's radar, while Saliba receives calls from Barcelona. The transfer market giants do not care about your winning streak. They only care about stealing your greatest assets. That is the spark scenario, the brightest moment of glory becoming the trigger that slowly tears the squad apart. But the good news is that Arsenal have already built a structure strong enough to resist that storm. Their wage structure is extremely competitive. Arteta is fully committed to the project, and there is one reality people forget: Arsenal under Arteta have never bent because of money. Saka stayed while the whole world chased him. Saliba chose to sign a new contract. Declan Rice joined Emirates even knowing he was turning down Manchester City. Now we arrive at the final scenario, the one-time moment. And finally, there is a brutal possibility that no Arsenal fan wants to say out loud. What if this is already the ceiling? What if this is the brightest season they will ever have, before the decline begins? I am not being cynical. I am simply facing reality. Arsenal have been close to this point before. They have led the league before. They have played like an unstoppable force before. They have had Champions League nights that made everyone believe their time has finally come. But then, all it takes is one poor run of form, one catastrophic injury, or one defeat in a defining clash, and suddenly everything slips away again. Just look at the legendary Invincibles generation itself. The unbeaten 2003-04 season, the greatest achievement in Premier League history. Yet, even that iconic team never managed to lift the Champions League trophy.
Not this year. 2006 is the year that Barcelona returned to the summit of European football. The favourites have won the final. Arsenal's future may be bright, but Barcelona are the team of the present. And 14 years on from their one and only European Cup success, are back on top of European football. And they may just take some shifting.
That is how cruel and humbling football can be. You can become the greatest unbeaten domestic side ever and still fall short on Europe's biggest stage. Which is why the only real answer for Arsenal to avoid this brutal scenario comes down to one thing: depth. Arsenal's spine, from David Raya to the defensive wall of Saliba and Gabriel to the midfield partnership of Rice and Odegaard, is backed up by quality rotational options like Ben White and Kai Havertz. That depth, combined with a strong rotation between Martinelli and Trossard on the left flank, gives Mikel Arteta the confidence to rotate his squad between the Premier League and the Champions League without disrupting the entire system. However, Arsenal's grand ambitions still carry two major weak points: Bukayo Saka's right flank and the striker position. Their over-reliance on Saka turns that roll into the biggest risk within the system, because if the English star becomes exhausted or injured, Arsenal simply do not possess an equivalent replacement. Add to that the alarming lack of depth at centre forward and right back, and Arsenal's entire rise could easily collapse if an injury crisis suddenly hits.
When you look at your team and your squad, and you will look around, and sometimes in the last few years you've looked at your team and you're going, yeah, the team in Odegaard was the main man and Saka. There was no backup plan. There was always, well, if these lads don't turn up, we're in trouble. Yeah. But now you're looking at Arsenal going, even if they're not at their very best, obviously they can get over the line with set pieces. But what we saw today, the dream scenario for them, when they're up against it and one or two injuries, and Rice, maybe the manager will say, maybe I got that wrong. It's the players coming off the bench. We had it United. It's not about your starting 11. It never has been. But they didn't have that strength and depth. Their bench today.
That is not criticism. It is simply brutal reality of elite football. Every great dynasty has always needed one pillar capable of carrying the weight of the kingdom. Manchester City had Kevin De Bruyne, Real Madrid have Jude Bellingham. And for Arsenal right now, that pillar is Bukayo Saka. But let's pretend everything goes perfectly. Saka stays fully fit. Arsenal defeat PSG in the Champions League final and bring both of the biggest trophies back to the Emirates. When that moment happens, how much will the balance of power change, not just for Arsenal, but for the entire landscape of world football? Now, take a step back and look at the bigger picture, a much bigger picture, because if Arsenal truly conquer both the Premier League and the Champions League in the 2025-26 season, this story will no longer be confined to the Emirates. That achievement would tear down and rebuild the entire power structure of European football. And here is a truth that still is not fully appreciated: Arsenal's global influence. A Champions League night at the Emirates is already one of the most electric atmospheres in football. But imagine Arsenal officially becoming kings of Europe. More than 200 million followers across social media exploding in celebration. Commercial partnerships across 4 continents elevated to an entirely new level. The Champions League trophy does not just fill the cabinet. It unlocks the highest tier of revenue printing pre-season tours, and above all, the ultimate privilege in the transfer market. Suddenly, Arsenal can look superstars like Kylian Mbappé, Jamal Musiala or Lamine Yamal directly in the eye and say, "We are the champions of Europe. Come here." That scouting and recruitment status is the true leverage of power, more valuable than any transfer budget in world football.
I expect Arsenal to win the league. I think they've got the best team, I think they've got the best squad. But I think if you're a Manchester City fan, and what you've seen over the last few years and what they've done sort of catching them, I think they'll all be rubbing their hands with glee about how tight it is with Arsenal now.
When even the doubters begin to hesitate and believe, that is when you know a genuine earthquake is coming. And if that miracle truly happens, if Arsenal conquer both of football's greatest prizes, then there is still one final question left to ask. A question that perhaps every Arsenal fan right now is secretly trying to avoid. If Arsenal win both the Premier League and the Champions League this season, are they the greatest Arsenal side of all time? Greater even than the Invincibles?
This team have got the capability of, if they can win it, they'll be invincible in the Champions League. If they can win that and win the Premier League, and that team, the Invincible team, as great as they were with their individuals, this team will surpass them with what they've done, because they'll have done something that that team hasn't done, and they've got to get a lot of credit for that, for what they've been through in the journey to get to here with the manager. So if they can finish it off, which I'm praying that they can, of course they have to go down as the best team in Arsenal's history.
The Invincibles will forever remain immortal legends. Going through a 38-game Premier League season, unbeaten, that record may never be broken. Arsene Wenger built a team that challenged the limits of football itself and conquered England in a way nobody else ever has. But this current Arsenal team, if they complete this double, they will conquer Europe too, something the Invincibles never achieved. They are not better than the Invincibles, they are simply different. Two different peaks on the same great mountain. And you know what? After 21 long years of painful runner-up finishes and broken hearts, Arsenal fans deserve to have both peaks. One era that proved English football could be played to perfection, and another era that proved Arsenal could dominate the world. And that is our answer. Arsenal winning both the Premier League and the Champions League. This is no longer some impossible fantasy. It is a scenario taking shape right in front of our eyes. The statistics support it. The squad believes in it. The manager is ready for it. But football has never cared about statistics. Football is 90 minutes of chaos wrapped inside the beautiful lie that form always decides everything. Even so, there is one thing I can say with certainty. For the first time in 2 decades, Arsenal fans no longer need to pray that their team might be good enough. The Premier League table proves they are good enough. The Champions League proves they are reaching levels that belong in history. And if Mikel Arteta truly leads this team all the way to the finish line, then we will not simply be talking about a great Arsenal season. We will be witnessing the opening shot of a new era. If you enjoy our video, don't forget to hit like to help this video reach to other football lovers, and hit the subscribe button to follow for more interesting videos about football stories. See you in the next video.